This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, this is Stuart from Hear Me, See Me podcast. Back from a short break. But that's a story for another day. I've had a lot going on. But today, and which I'm really looking forward to, first session back is with a lovely lady called Danielle Thomas. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Well, I've invited you on because you came on a wonderful recommendation from one of my, you're not supposed to have favourites, one of my favourite guests. She must be great because she's been on twice. Jodie Keegans, who's, would you say, a domestic abuse survivor? Is that a term? I think that's a term she likes. And she sort of met you recently and she was blown away by you. And if she's blown away by you, I know I'm going to be. But I won't waffle on too much longer. I'll just say that if you could take me back, what part of the country was you born? What was your childhood? And then take me through your story and then tell me about your Imagine project after that.
Well, I'll start somewhere. I was raised in a little village, just the one side of Doncaster, a little pit village called Harworth.
Right.
Grew up a council child. Loved my wimpy warrior roots. Out from morning till night. Little bit of a bugger at school, can I say?
Yeah.
Education-wise, I went to college, kind of followed my footsteps that way. Realised that when I'd set up my own family, that there was either going to work and paying for a childminder and not seeing my child, or thinking of another way to be able to incorporate it all. So I decided that I needed to set up as a childminder. That way I could be at home with my own children and still make a living. Because obviously, as some people know, once you're in a family, there isn't much support or help out there.
No.
With regards to financial. You're kind of left on your own because there's two wages coming in. So that's what we did. Unfortunately, my child's father's relationship broke down. I carried on being a childminder. Then decided when the girls had got to kind of full-time school, I went back into what they call adult work, not adult industry, but adult job. Back to the office environment. I didn't have childcare to pay for, obviously working with a little bit more flexible. And that's where we went. I ended up working for a couple of years, and then unfortunately my mental health struggled. I had tried to address some childhood issues that kind of got out of hand. And then I went into another relationship, which unfortunately pretty fast didn't turn out very well. Right. So that's in a nutshell.
Right. That was a journey to that point. So is this the relationship that I read about on
it is,
the website? Yeah. Do you want to tell me about that?
Yeah, it was a really whirlwind romance, to be honest. He kind of pursued me for quite a few months, but there was a bit of an age gap. So I was always kind of put off by that. I was very flattered. He was a very good looking guy. He was local to the same village as me. So I knew of him, but not him personally. Again, with the age difference, we didn't cross paths as such. He kind of pursued me that little bit more, which I found quite flattering. Obviously, I was a newly turned early 30s woman being wooed by a young guy. It was nice. So I agreed. He came around for a cup of tea, and kind of from that moment, he had his feet under the table and never left.
Right. You say a whirlwind. In these stories, I've come across quite a few now. They often seem to be like this whirlwind romance.
Yeah, they kind of know what to say to you. I like to think most people will tell you that I'm quite standoffish, or I appear to be very independent, don't take not shit from anybody, but I kind of sail through life just doing my own little thing. And like I said, he swooped me off my feet. It was lovely. It was full of compliments. he knew little bits about me, kind of like, I look back now thinking, not like, I don't want to use the word stalked, but he must have done a little bit of digging to find out details about my family, about my upbringing, what I liked, what I didn't like. He knew enough about me without me telling him.
Yeah.
And then
it's quite a natural thing, isn't it? For they seem to know exactly the right thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We shared a few, like I said, previously I had tried to address some childhood issues that didn't go to plan. And obviously getting to know him, I confided little bits in him. He shared things with me. And I kind of felt like we had a connection on some like kind of personal trauma, should I say. So that kind of felt like, oh my God, maybe we are made for each other. You know, this is my soulmate has come. But, or now I think back and I'm like, is that just the bullshit that I was fed to get my hook that little bit deeper, to get me that reeled in that little bit more?
Yeah.
Obviously I'll never know, because I don't want to ask them questions. I don't want to ever speak to him again. So
no. And maybe that what was said was true, because some people go through trauma and then repeat it. Some people don't. Some people, you know, I had my own childhood trauma, and I'm lucky that I managed to sort of deal with it and not that affect me later in life. But you know, some people don't, and you know, they repeat the process.
Again, I think you are definitely right. It doesn't excuse that behaviour.
No.
But again, it's a question that I'll never get the answer to.
No.
And like I said, within, I'd say 3-4 months of very intense, full on overloading love, I'd probably say, it then very quickly turned very dark. Within like a blink of an eye. There was no drugs involved, there was no drink involved. It was all done out of sane mind, as I class it as. And the first instant was, we was asleep in bed one night, must have been about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was just woken up with him on top of me, literally just pummeling shit out of me, because he'd been on my phone, read messages from, I don't know, 3-4 years previously, just from people that we knew in mutual. There was nothing in the messages, but because I'd had conversations with these people, he didn't like that. And that was the start. And obviously people always say, oh, that's when you should have got out. Yeah, I probably should have. But in that instant, you, in my words, and a lot of others describe it, you've already brainwashed. You're already in that bubble that, right, I'll believe it. It's a one-off, you know. They're so apologetic the next day. It's because I love you so much. It was my jealousy. It proves how much I love you. I don't want to lose you. So you think, all right, then we'll excuse it this one time. And then it slips into another time, and then you start walking on eggshells, and it just becomes unbearable.
That from other stories I've heard, I mean, sometimes it built up, so it'd be, you know, a push or a shove or a slap or something, but yours sounded quite intense straight from the beginning.
There was nothing previous to that. There was no arguing, there was no dispute. It was literally that one night that I woke up to him literally just punching the fuck out of me. Excuse my French, but that's the only way I can put it.
It's okay, we all speak French, that's fine. But you know, yeah, and it's so, to me, from outside looking in, it's almost like that must have been really bubbling up. That rage must have been bubbling under the surface. You know, all that time, all the time is like all that love was being put on you. That rage is bubbling away underneath, and it's just that little thing for it to pour out.
And like you said, it weren't like it was just an explosive argument, or it was just something completely out of the blue. I was completely unexpected of it. I was asleep.
Yeah.
So I had no way to defend myself or anything. There was no, what is this message? Where's this message from? Was there anything else in this message? Did you meet up? It was literally, I've read this and I'm just going for it.
Yeah.
And then it got to times where he'd play really bad mind games, where he'd come up and he'd be like, "Oh, you're so beautiful," like walking up to me like, "Babe, come here, come here," and then whack, straight round face. No reason, no nothing. Again, no drugs, no drink.
Wow.
And just I don't know, kind of shrug it off, laugh it off.
How did that make you feel?
Like shit.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's
I'm
fine.
not crying because it hurts me. There's still the element of embarrassment, shame.
Yeah.
For kind of putting up with it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there was times I did try to end the relationship, and it was always met with more violence. And because I don't have a big supportive network around me, it was kind of like, who are you going to get? Your dad and your brother-in-law. I'll beat them up as well. And obviously, you don't want to be. I know what he's capable of, and I don't want to involve or put anybody else at risk.
People watching, they're going to ask those things. They're going to That's what people do, but people don't realise that the hold that someone can have over you, over another person.
I will hold my hand up fully. 10 years ago, you'd have said to me, "What would you do if your boyfriend ever hit you?" I'd be like, I would tell them to fuck off straight away. I'd be gone. I would not put up with that until you are in that situation, until you have been brainwashed or broken down to absolutely nothing, because they take away your identity. I used to do pole fitness, and to start with, he was like, "Wow, it's amazing. Obviously, it's a sport." He was into his sport.
Yeah.
I was praised on my strength, my ability, my dedication.
Yeah.
And very quickly that turned into, only slags do that. You're a slag.
Yeah.
All your mates are slag that do it. You're not going to that no more. So that was squashed. That network of people were pushed away from me. I was isolated from them. Then it was, they'd start on my very small friend, like circle of close friends, that they'd start drip feeding the ideas into you that they're no good for you, they're jealous of you, they're trying to do this, and before you know it, you slowly absorb it, and without you even being aware that you are absorbing it.
Yeah. Oh, it's very calculated and effective. As you say, the drip feeding that breaks down your self-esteem, and it's no mean threat, because if someone has put violence on you and then threatened your loved ones with violence, you believe they're going to carry it out.
Yeah.
I mean, most times they wouldn't, because there's generally a cowardly thing that they do, and confronted by another man or something, they back down. Sometimes not. Sometimes they're very violent people. But the thing for you at the time is, as you say, the only network you've got that you're going to maybe deal with is your family, and you don't want to inflict that on them. And it's while you're in that, you can't look. You're so focused inside it, you can't see outside it. You can't see that maybe a call to the police is the thing that's going to end it all. Because it's like, you do that, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, and I think because I kind of grew up, like I said, I don't want to bring my parents down, because they're not here to defend themselves. I know I'm well within my right to speak about my childhood, but I didn't have the best upbringing. There was a lot of drugs and drink involved with my parents.
Right.
And it was kind of, where am I going with this? It was kind of like, is this the norm? My mum and dad were quite volatile to each other. The families around me as I grew up were quite volatile to each other. And obviously back then, if the police were called, it was always, "Oh, it's domestic, we can't deal with that." And I hadn't realised that had changed over time now, and that it's not classed as just domestic anymore. It is a
No.
violent, and even the coercive control, the financial control,
Yeah.
not just the violent side of it. Every aspect of it now is a legal matter. You cannot do that, man or woman.
No.
Whatever you identify as, you should not live in fear, and
Yeah.
love should not hurt.
Yeah, no. That's God, what a soundbite. You know, that you know, God, if anything comes from this conversation, love should not hurt. You know,
Well, it shouldn't.
It's you know, that sums it all up, doesn't it? Like, you know, it should be a mutual exchange of respect.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a lot older than you, but you know, it was always. No, I am. I was 60 recently. Yeah, I managed it. I got to 60. There's a lot of people thought I wouldn't, you know, and even including me, but I managed it. And you know, but going back, you know, it's police, they're not interested. That's a domestic. I completely understand that, and you carry that through. But you know, it's taken very, very seriously. Even if there's not a violent incident, coercive control, you know, is taken very, very seriously now.
It is definitely.
You know, if you've got the courage to speak up, they will take action against someone who's being like that. You know.
And the support out there that I realise now is second to none. I know I have, within my experience, I didn't have the best experience, say, with social services, which I know a lot of women and men do fear. That is the biggest fear of leaving a relationship, is the dreaded social services, which now I can say I do understand they are there for the voice of the children and the children only, and them children, or all children, need to have that independent, safe voice.
Yeah.
And I do get that now. I don't still agree with the process that was what happened, but I do understand they did it for the interest of my girls, because we were separated. My girls went to their paternal dad while, because we weren't allowed to stay in the house, we weren't allowed to stay in the area, we had to move. But rather than us going to refuge together and putting the girls through that as well, I was told I'd put them in danger, so they had to go and stay with their dad until I'd found us somewhere else.
Sorry, you were told that you'd put your children in danger?
Yeah. Yeah.
By the social services?
By social services. Even having a domestic abuse worker say to them, you do understand the impact of domestic abuse. And it was just a kind of, but obviously I can now say, I believe that's to the individual, not as social services as a whole.
Right.
I just believe I may have been unlucky to have had that social worker.
Yeah, because
I have spoke to others and they are fantastic. They are absolutely out of this world.
Yeah, because for your case, for your instance, and your experience, to be told that that you've put your children in danger because of your violent partner, like straight away to me, I'm thinking, what on earth are you talking about? Right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of reasons as going back to reasons not to end in a relationship. Well, if the chances are that you're going to have your children taken away, it's another reason not to inform the services, because you'll think, well, I'll tough it out for my kids. I don't want to split me. You know, it's another reason not to report this.
It is.
So to me, it's horrific.
I was told that I have done background checks and asked for checks, I'd have been told to stay well away from this individual. But back then, I think Clare's law had only been out maybe 18 months.
Yeah.
So it weren't even a talked about thing that you could go and have checks. Normally you're told, I'm sorry, I can't disclose that to you, even if we could. Even if we wanted to, we can't disclose that to you.
Yeah, you can't even take your kids to the doctors now if they're over 18, because of, you know, they're adults, they're not allowed to talk about them, and you know, you can't. There's these things that
so I was kind of damned if I did and damned if I didn't. So
yeah.
But I'm glad that there's more in the last 4 years since my case.
Yeah.
I'm glad that there has been so much more awareness, so much more stigma removed.
Yeah.
The support out there has been increased tenfold.
Yeah. So where did it go from there then? So you've got to the point where that first attack happened, but then, how long did it go on for? Where did it? What happened?
Some say I was lucky. I only had to endure it for about 11 months. And the last episode was where he held me hostage for 3 days and literally battered me every day. I was beat with an iron bar, given lashings, as he said, across my arse. Many people have seen in the paper. And I was told repeatedly, you can have 5 lashings or your head shaved, 5 lashings or you walk down the street naked, 5 lashings or we see how far we can get this bar inside you. And I was just, after, I'd say it's probably the first 3 or 4, it was kind of like, I was just like, just hit me, I hope whatever's in his head, or he'll get bored of it, when he'll have enough and we'll move on. I don't know, we'll move on to doing something else, smashing the house up again. But like, he tipped paint all over me, just degrading stuff. Made me lick paint off the floor. Again, smashed my house, my pride and joy, my safe space to absolute smithereens. There weren't anything left of it. Just, I don't know, it was more the mind gamey stuff, ripping up kids' photos, and I don't know, the first night he made my little girl watch, she was petrified. And she really suffered after all this. And again, this was all no drugs, no drink. We went to bed still early hours of the morning, woke up the next day, and it just started again. Kicking me, smashing mirrors over me. I'm screaming at him saying, you're gonna kill me. Like, how far are you gonna take this? I didn't ever fight back, which some people say, why didn't you fight back? And I just thought, it might sound really vain, but my only thing used to be was just to cover my face so the kids didn't see me with, black eyes or big thick lips. Yeah. I'd rather have took the beatings and hair pullings and rib kickings and have the bruises that I could cover rather than have to explain these big bruises on my face.
Yeah. Yeah.
And luckily it started the Sunday night, and it was, again, over a message from probably about 7 years previously. This is how obsessed he must have been of going through. And by this point, I didn't have a phone. I weren't allowed a phone. No. I had an Actel just in case school needed to contact me. But again, that was monitored.
Right.
But he had my Facebook on his phone. So I think he just became obsessed with searching through messages, searching people to see if we'd ever messaged, and it just became, I don't know, and I don't understand why it became, because I was always very honest about, I don't know, who I'd been with in the past. I was always, I am an open person. I don't see the point in lying. It doesn't get you anywhere.
No.
And like I said, we were from the same village. So if you wanted to know anything that much, we're from a small village, you know what it's like. You do something one end and it's tripled by the time you get to other end of your village.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know where that jealousy came from. I would never gave him the impression. Like I said, we was never separated. We was always together.
Yeah, it's never going to be enough.
No.
It would, there's nothing you could have done that would have been enough.
But it weren't even like, it got to a point where, because I was in a 3-story house, the living room was in the middle. If I was cleaning the kitchen, he had to be with me downstairs because someone might come to the back door.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm cleaning up, and he just had to be with me at all times.
It's such a case of, strong mental illness. You're talking about real mental illness that this person's got. Now, I don't mean that to justify it, because I can't justify it. There's things I can justify in life. I can never justify any of this. And, I can't, I can understand that people can't forgive, this type of thing. But it's just sheer and utter mental illness. It's not a normal human being who treats
No.
another human being like this. You know, like someone, if you said I was considered lucky for 11 months, that's what you lived for 11 months is like someone else having to endure 11 years of, you know, because it's that intense.
But then I say I'm very lucky that I didn't have children to him. I feel
Yeah.
them poor women and men who
Yeah.
have to then continue that.
Mm.
I feel lucky that I have got to step away and try to completely rebuild my life.
Yeah.
So I suppose what some consider lucky, others don't.
No, not at all. And it's all relative to each other, isn't it? You know, people say, "Oh, there's people worse off than me," but it's your stuff. It's relative to you at the time.
Yes.
You know. So this went on for. It started the Sunday. It went on for 3 days.
Yeah. We took my youngest to school the Monday morning. Luckily, the girl's dad's mum worked at school, so I kind of dropped him off. I did have a black eye. My ribs, I think I must have had a couple of broken ribs by that point already.
Yeah.
I'd had a mirror already smashed over my head. Obviously, she was traumatized, but I just wanted to get her out of the situation.
Yeah.
People say to me, why did you not stay in the school? It was like, well, he was outside the school. The last thing I wanted was him started screaming and traumatizing even more kids.
Yeah.
You know, I'm at a school. I needed to get my kid safe.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about me. It was just I needed to get her safe, and I needed to try and sort the situation. That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went back, and it just continued, just more sadistic as the day went on. And every night that I laid next to him, just praying to God, that I was like, there was even one point I thought to myself, I hope he does actually just kill me, because I don't want to go through this no more. Like, how much longer do I have to endure this? When is he going to get bored, or like, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
But no, it continued, like I said, for 3 days, until my girl's dad raised the alarm and some support workers came to the door, and they made it known that they weren't going to go away until we answered. Both cars were on the drive, so they knew we was home.
Yeah.
And I suppose he weren't the smartest of them all, and he was just like, go to the door and get rid of him. He said, you best just get rid of him. And obviously by this point, I couldn't walk, I couldn't sit down, I had a broken jaw. Obviously I didn't know at this point, but I was just an absolute mess. I had paint in my hair because I'd had it tipped all over me. I was only allowed a 3-minute shower. So I went to the door. All I had on was my dressing gown, literally nothing underneath. I opened the door a tiny bit, and they just looked at me, and I think their faces said it all.
Yeah.
And they just said, "Are you safe?" And I couldn't speak, I couldn't do it, and I just broke down, and they just took me, and that was it. I just literally left that house in just my dressing gown. Didn't know where I was going, what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was relief, but also fear of what's going to happen next. Yeah, and
that's your home. That he'd come into your home. So even though someone can understand you, like, oh, we find you're free, but you've left your home with him in there. Yeah.
The police were called. It was all a big whirlwind after this, and I think I'm kind of glad that it was kind of took out of my control.
Yeah.
There was no, would you like to press charges? Because I probably would have said no for the fear of what the repercussions were going to be.
Yeah.
It was kind of took out of my hands. I was taken to a safe house, then taken to hospital. The next morning, I went for my video interview. He was arrested that night. Luckily, was remanded straight away.
Right.
And then obviously that's when social services got involved. After my video interview, we was told we weren't allowed to return to the house. I could see the girls, but it had to be on mutual ground, or at a friend's house or my sister's house. Under no circumstances could they return back, because obviously the house was literally fully destroyed. There was nothing. The fridge, the washer, cupboard doors, paint. There was no doors left. Holes in what had ripped all the banisters out, all the wardrobes, every TV. There was nothing left. Nothing. The only thing that was left was the beds and the sofa. Nothing else.
The absolute rage of that. You can't think a human being can reach that level of rage
Over what I believe to be absolutely nothing. I could understand
it was nothing.
Well, no, I couldn't even understand, but I could probably maybe slightly more understand if I'd cheated or if I had done something to him, you know, to give him a reason or a cause. But in my eyes, there weren't anything.
Oh,
and I'm sure in many women's eyes that it happens to, they don't do nothing wrong. It's something up there in them.
But you could have, if you're saying about reasons, you could have slept with every man in the village. It still wouldn't relate to that. No. There's nothing you could do that would make that okay. Nothing. You know, let alone an old message but that's the levels of stop doing your hair.
I'm just like, oh.
Just because I'm an hairdresser, you ain't got to worry about it. No, it's so what happened after that then, you know, once he'd been arrested and he was in remand?
Obviously I was told that I was returning back to this Hayf house alone without my kids and it was my fault.
Right.
And I shamefully tried to take my life.
Well, it's I don't know about shamefully. I think it's a desperate measure in it, you know, that you couldn't have been thinking rationally at that point.
No, definitely not.
You know, there's only so much you can take when you can't take no more, and it's understandable at that point you felt you couldn't take no more.
I think it was just that obviously all the adrenaline had gone, so I was feeling every bruise, every break, I had 6 broken ribs, broken jaw. I was a mess. Obviously, I couldn't even sit down because my bum was that bruised. And then obviously not having my kids, making the shame and the guilt of losing your kids. But well, I didn't lose them, but kind of.
Yeah.
I had no home. It was like, what do I do from here?
Yeah.
So I was sectioned. Luckily, I was found in time, obviously, because I'm here. It weren't my time to go.
No.
And I was sectioned for 2 months, which I needed, I think, definitely needed.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds harsh for you to then be sectioned, you know, but if you was in danger, like a danger to yourself, that's what that's for, isn't it, I suppose?
I think it was more, I felt really bad for the kids.
Of course.
You know, kind of mum's been whipped away. They both, it's hard for me to say one of them experienced more than the other because that's unfair to say that. Yeah, Ella saw the last bit and was traumatized by that, bless her. But equally, they both suffered the same. They both lost mum. They both didn't know what had happened. Our house had gone. We were told that we weren't allowed to go back there. We weren't even allowed to stay in the area that we knew. We had to just completely relocate.
Right.
But we didn't know where we were relocating to or when that would be. So everything was just a massive, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I know councils and things try and do as much as they can, but the demand out there is just too much. Trying to get private rented because I weren't then working by that time. I had nobody to be a guarantor, so trying to get private rented is obviously a lot more expensive as well. It was just, it seemed an impossible task that I didn't know how to get out of. And that's when, luckily, I had some fantastic charities step in. Some local charities to where I live, like Riverside, the IDVA service, were amazing. The support that I had was second to none from the police. Again, they didn't keep me fully up to date, but I think that was for my own good.
Yeah.
I wasn't stable enough to know the ins and outs of what he was saying. I didn't need to know what he was saying.
No.
All I needed to concentrate on was staying strong in my own recovery.
Yeah.
So
you then go from a safe house to, did you finally get your own place?
yeah. Well, I did. I went from the safe house to the ward, but for being sectioned, and then I went from the ward into temporary private accommodation until we eventually got a council house, which I'm in now, which we relocated. The girls still go to their same school. I do 100 miles a day school trip.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't think it was fair uprooting the girls from where they lived and all their friends, and then to take them from their school and all their friends. And obviously it was kind of, with my mental health, was it better that they stayed there because it was closer to dad, for if I did have a wobble again or anything was to happen to me.
Of course. Yeah.
I had to think of them and me doing 100 miles a day. I don't know, good thinking time. We have good car discos, good discussions, good debates. We get everything off our chest in that time to school.
So how long does it take? Like, what time do you have to leave?
About a 2-hour round trip. It's 40 minutes there, 40 minutes back. But obviously, if we hit a bit of traffic, turnaround time.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And then back again at the end of school.
At the end of school, yeah.
Right.
So
that's quite a journey.
The girls, the little one sleeps most of the time, though. Bless her.
Does she? What? I'm sorry. I've got to have a drink.
No, it's a warm day. You keep hydrated.
It's not trust me, it's not the weather. It's your story. Bringing up everything. But I've got to say at this point that those charities are incredible, aren't they? And so crucial. Because without that, where would you have been? Without those charities.
And there are so many support networks out there.
Yeah.
If you have no idea where to go, your local council should be your first point of call.
Yeah.
They will signpost you to any local charities that are available. They have their own in-house teams.
Yeah.
Obviously, then if you're supported, whether you go through the court process or whether you don't go through the court process, there is support out there for you, no matter what you decide to do.
And that's crucial information for people to know, because that, maybe that's the first place. They wouldn't think to go to the council, but you need to find out where these things are.
And I'm so glad that our local council are so passionate about campaigns that they run. I'm sure other councils are, but obviously I can only speak for my local council.
Yeah.
And they are fantastic. The workers that they have are all dedicated to what they do. They're passionate about what they do. Their hearts are in the right place.
Yeah.
And I believe all of them go above and beyond the line of duty. Yeah. Well, they have the ones that have worked with me anyway, or the professionals I've worked with regards to the camp side of things.
Yeah. I mean, those charities, I've got quite a lot of relationships with different ones around the country, and I've visited many of those. And with Haircuts for Homeless, a lot of the time it seems to be all about homeless centres. But over the years, there's ones we go to, and sometimes they're, as you say, they're safe houses, so we don't advertise that we're there. Sometimes they're sort of a crossing point, so we can. But so unfortunately, I've heard so many stories like yours. I'd love to say that this is an isolated incident, but I'm meeting so many women, and each one, it breaks my heart. I'm cutting someone's hair, and they're telling me, and it breaks my heart. That this is going on, and but I have to really say that the charities are amazing, and these safe houses, and I work with all sorts of different ones, and but I never take any of it for granted, because it's so special. when, because as you know, go and get your head. I know you only do it once a year, but go and get your head done. You come out feeling $1 million.
You do.
So, and if we come at that point where someone's at the very lowest they can be, that can make the difference of them feeling better about themselves. So,
It can, and obviously it can give you a feel of a whole new identity if you go crazy for something radical and change.
Yeah.
It can make you feel like a whole different person. So
yeah,
I definitely think that side of things. But with regards to the refuges, the local ones around here or any up and down the country, they are so important. These are saving people's lives. These people are running for their lives, not just for the sake of it, because they don't want to be in just a relationship that they can't say no to. That this is their lives that they're talking about, their children's lives. It's serious shit.
yeah, and it's that's why they need as much backup and support as they can get, for everyone to back them, because some of these are very small independent charities as well, so they're running on a shoestring like most charities are, so they need all the help they can get. So let's now
put that to one side.
I think we really went there, and I really appreciate you taking us there, because you wouldn't understand it otherwise, and I really appreciate you sharing that. But then it led you to this. So you've gone from there, and you've got your council place and that. So what led you then to this wonderful project that you're doing?
It took me a while. I struggled really hard for 2 years after the incident. I completely lost myself, didn't know what I was doing. And something, I think I was speaking to another survivor in, I think it might have been like a crisis house, last year, that I'd gone to for a couple of days because I was having another wobble. And she was up one night with me. She was the night worker, and she was up one night with me. And she started telling me about her personal story, and hers was horrific, awful. And I kind of sat there, and something just clicked in my head that just said to me, if this lady can do it and still make a difference, not only to her own life, but to other people's, why can't I? I've always been passionate about mental health. I've always been passionate about empowering other women. I quite proudly say I'm a bit of a feminist. With obviously I do pole fitness, and that's all about empowerment. So I've always been passionate in that side of things, and I thought, well, what's missing? And I thought, well, I felt very much alone, and I don't want anybody else to feel like that. And then I thought about my childminding background, and me and my girls are passionate about the outdoors, and we love to camp. It's the only time that they never argue. So we used to do, well, we still do loads of camping. And I thought it was kind of like just a light bulb moment. I thought, well, what if I could provide like a summer camp for these families that are going through it, but kind of offer them a bit of motivational speaking, yoga, mindfulness, reflexology, all the kind of stuff that coincides with your medication and your counselling side of stuff, which they can access without any waiting list. You can access a lot of it on YouTube. So I kind of thought, could I tick all the boxes? And that's where it kind of started. And from that point, I can say that if I've ever come up against an obstacle, I've always had not just anybody to help me out. It always seems to be like the creme de la creme of that area wants to help me. So I've been so fortunate that every step of the way, it's just grown and grown and grown. And I am to the point now that we're 5 weeks into camps. We've had lots of different families. We've still got families coming. And the feedback that I'm having is better than I could ever imagined. Seeing them happy kids' faces, and in turn, if you're a parent, you'll know, no matter how shitty your day is, you see your kids genuinely having fun, even if in that 5 minutes, that feeling you get inside is tremendous. And I thought, if I can provide that to even just one of the families for 3 times 5 minutes over that weekend, all the stress that I've gone through will be well worth it. And the feedback that I've had, like we've had a lot of children on the spectrum with sensory issues who have come out of the shells, even just in a weekend, just being in that environment of it's just tranquil, but with
Yeah.
educational activities in there to
Yeah.
keep them stimulated. And it's beautiful. It really has been. It's not work. It's just getting to hang out with lovely families.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. And so this is the first camp. This is,
Yeah, this is our first year.
first year. And you know it's going to go on, don't you? You know, you just know it's going to.
I'd love to think that, I don't know, in 10 years' time, I've got a couple up and down the country.
Yeah.
And I've tried to make it glamping for I say mums because I have only done mums this year because of my lack of experience, I'll say, in getting the right volunteers. But next year I will be opening up to male only family camps.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ensure that everybody had the same experience with the same professional volunteers.
Yeah.
I didn't want it just to be a rushed thing that the men come to and the women get all these fandangled, I don't know, like seminars or whatever, or sessions.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it beneficial for both. So moving forward, yeah, I've made it glamping for them and then a proper adventure camp for the kids.
Yeah.
And it seems to, like I said, that the feedback that I've had is fantastic.
Well, I know, and you know, I got it from Jodie herself, and she was just so blown away by it. She said, "You got to speak to this woman."
And it obviously that to me, just that one bit of feedback is worth it. If Jodie and her family took anything away from it, that's what it's there for. I've had messages from the mums who came for the first couple of weeks saying the behavior of the children and the calmness of the children has continued, which then has made it where mum wants to go out more and do more with the kids, which then again has another knock-on effect that the kids see that they're getting to do more, which is then making them even better, you know, because they're thinking that obviously this positiveness is just continuing.
Yeah.
And like I said, that there are going to be the times, like I still have massive days where I go straight back down, but I just don't stay there as long. My time down there is luckily getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
But like I said, the feedback is better than I could ever imagined. And in 10 years, I want them up and down country because I think it's so beneficial.
Why not? Why not? It's an amazing idea. I don't know of another one, so why not? It's needed. And as you say, you can't beat yourself up too much that this is the first one. It's a women-only camp, and you know we do know this affects all sexes, all genders, and sexualities, and all that. These relationships. So there is a need for it, but you have to start somewhere, you know. And ours started with me cutting some homeless people's hair where I live, and it evolved. And then I didn't know that we'd go to places where women's refuges, or we would go to ex-offenders places, there's bridging places, and on Monday next week I'm going to a place where the sex workers go for a respite and a day, a safe place. And I didn't dream I'd be working like that, but it's amazing because we're all humans, and we all need a bit of love and tenderness. That's all we need, we need some food and we need some oxygen and we need it, but we all desperately do need some love and tenderness, and it can come from someone listening, talking, touching. The fact that some people that I work with have not been touched for such a long time, and you just, it's so important. And what you're doing is so unique and important. I can see it really, really being a success, and I can see the good it's doing you, because I know the good what I do does me. It's almost selfish.
That is exactly what I was just about to say. I feel in a way I've done this on a selfish way, because I've done this to aid my own recovery as well, and my girls' recovery. Like my youngest, well, both girls now say to me, and she turned around and said, because she got really bad OCD at one point, and it weren't the ritualistic cleaning, it was the more, if I don't do a task, mum or dad or my best friends are going to get hurt or they're going to die. So for a little 11-year-old to have that on her shoulders, now she turns around, she's like, if anybody, or I hear the word domestic abuse or that certain name, she's like, I don't think about him no more, or his face doesn't come up. She said, I think about all the fun that we have at camp and how many people we're helping and the good that we're doing. And I'm like, that to me it speaks for itself. I don't need to do no more. And like I said, like you said, it's helping me massively.
Yeah, it does. Recent years I've gone through the most traumatic things, and what's helped me straight is the work. I go to a homeless centre. I was somewhere Friday night, and I really was feeling a bit low, and I got in there and I was on fire. I was cutting hair. We'd done 20 haircuts, two of us, you know,
Wow.
and I was like bang, bang, bang. But everything went, you know, and every time someone's, oh, thank you very much. Sometimes they're not even speaking my language. They just touch their heart. Oh, you know, I thank you. You know what they're saying. You know what they mean, you know. And I can really, really see that this is so beneficial for you.
And I suppose the same with you is, I just don't want anybody to feel like they're alone, because that feeling of feeling alone in this world is the most awful feeling you can ever have.
Yeah.
If I can help one person not feel like that, that's enough.
Danielle, you'll never be alone again now.
I've got my girls, I'll never be alone.
You'll never be alone again. And the more this grows, the less that's ever likely to happen again. Because you're going to surround yourself with like-minded people. You all come together. And I'm sure that I'm going to share this out as much as possible. You know, like when we put the podcast out, I'll get all the links off you, and we'll share the project out, and get people behind it, because it's such a wonderful thing. It's the best ideas are the simple ideas. And it's just a simple
and that's
thing.
it. People say to me, like obviously the cost wise for setting up the project.
Yeah.
Now that the expense of the equipment is out of the way, it's actually a pretty cheap thing to keep going. Yeah. Because obviously it is just the beautiful, great outdoors.
Yeah.
A good company.
So and easily replicable. Yeah. Well, I wish you every success. I think I need to go and have a lay down now. You've worn me out. You've emotionally worn me out. But
I do apologise. But thank you.
No, don't. Please never apologise. And the thing is, Danielle, it's just a privilege, you know, to hear someone's story, and I'm really grateful for you to share it like that. And it's something people, you know, you're going to help a lot more people, you know, as far as we can share this podcast. You will undoubtedly help so many people with your story, because it's a story of hope. Because things happen in life, we get things, but it's not what we're dealt, it's how we deal with them.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
And you're moving forward, and you're doing that. And I really, really respect you and everything you're doing. So I've got to stop now, because otherwise I'll end up going on and on. But I really appreciate it. And, you know, everyone, the links that are next to this, that are underneath this podcast, make sure you click on it, make sure you follow the story, and make sure you share it to everyone. That's the important thing. Share the message out. And so I'll leave it at that. Thanks a lot.
Silence. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.